All right, what is up? And welcome into another episode of the Oklahoma Sports Podcast. We're the little podcast on the prairie. I'm Jared, and this is Chase.
How you doing today, J-Mac?
Man, I'm chilling. We'll get into it because the Thunder are 0-3 right now.
Yeah, a lot of highs and a lot of lows.
That's killing my vibe. A lot of negatives, but then OU's looking good, so I'm kind of like, it keeps me sane a little bit.
It was a sports roller coaster.
Yeah, a
this
lot
weekend.
of people. Well, a lot of people don't know this. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan too, and they took a pretty rough L.
Yeah, could be
Sunday
worse.
night.
I was a Bears fan, and we threw a Hail Mary, completed it, and got it to the
Stopped
1 yard
at the
line.
one. That was a pretty crazy play.
It was.
But as I alluded to, the Thunder are 0-3 right now. After we said on the podcast, we'd hope that they would be 2-1 when we talk this time next week.
Yeah.
And they're 0-3, so you can put that on us.
We jinxed them.
We did. Man, but they're just not playing good right now.
No. In either game, you know, Russ didn't come back for that game against the Clippers, which they lost 108-92, which is terrible against a team like that. And, the Clippers are better than expected. They came out a couple days ago when we were recording this and beat a Houston Rockets team who's pretty decent. So the Clippers are going to surprise some people, but even if you didn't have Russ, the Paul George, Dennis Schroeder tandem, along with Steven Adams inside, should have been enough to beat that team. But it's hard to win. The Clippers got off to a 16-0 start in that game. It just looked flat. It looked like they were playing in a high school gym. Yeah. The number of people there, you could hear guys complaining to the ref. You could hear Billy Donovan yelling on the sidelines, catching the camera audios for the game. It was just, that game was terrible.
That's just brutal. And that's the thing, too. For whatever reason, the Thunder just start super slow. It seems like they started really slow against the Kings as well. Another loss that they had. It just was sort of the same idea. I don't think it was that bad, but it was like they were in a hole really early on.
Yeah.
They kind of don't give themselves something to kind of, like, they're always scrapping, trying to get back in a game rather than trying to gain a lead or whatever. They're always trying to claw back. It just kind of makes it hard on them.
Yeah, definitely. And, we spoke about it last podcast. We were interested to see if this team plays up and down with competition or just stays at that level competing like we know they can. Well, 3 games into the year, it looks like they play up and then well below these teams that they should beat, which is tough. But, Russ did come back against the Kings.
Yep.
Had, 32...
let me look. I have it pulled up.
Yeah. He had 32 points, like 12 rebounds, 8 assists or something like that, or vice versa on the rebounds and assists.
32, 12, and 8.
Yeah.
So 12 rebounds, 8 assists, 32 points.
Which, when Russ puts those numbers up, and he was efficient, it's not like he took a lot of bad shots. I don't think he had too many turnovers. He played well within himself, I thought.
Yeah. He definitely didn't show a whole lot of signs of rust, at least we thought.
No.
In fact, if you want to just cue up his little,
definitely.
the NBA put out little kind of Russ's back highlight video.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and full screen that for the people.
Yeah, he looked really solid. Like you said, he came out energetic, hungry, like we expect him to play, and it's clear that this team kind of needs his mentality because they're just not getting that from the head coach, apparently.
No, they're not really getting it from anywhere else. There are a few key guys off the bench they're getting energy from, but the starting unit comes out, and you kind of saw the same thing last year. Russ is really the only one that brings a lot of energy and intensity. Steven Adams does, but not in that way.
Yeah.
He's more of a lead by example. I'm gonna make these grit and grind plays and do that. But Russ brought the intensity early, and I thought the Thunder had a real good chance to take a lead, but they just couldn't get a stop.
Yeah. Getting a stop where it matters most, that's what killed them in the playoffs last year and up and to that point. Just defense, they have so much talent defensively that you would think like a team with all these guys on defense should be great. For whatever reason, they just don't put it together. And one thing that we kind of came together and thought about is like, the players obviously have to play, but from the coaching staff, we're just not seeing anything special. We're not really trying anything new. We've seen Ferguson start 3 games now for the Thunder.
Yeah.
What's he doing?
He hasn't looked good. I mean, but he hasn't looked bad. He's just not giving you anything on the court.
He's just not adding anything.
And he's played solid defense. You can tell he's really trying. He's given a ton of effort. He looks overwhelmed when he's on the court.
Yeah.
You see guys come in as a rookie sometimes and they're smooth, making good plays. We'll get to Diallo a little bit later, but he was like that. Ferguson, when he gets on the court, looks overwhelmed. You talk about a lot in the NFL, quarterbacks have happy feet when they're in the pocket. These rookie quarterbacks, I got to look here. Feet are constantly moving. That's Terrence Ferguson on the basketball court.
Yeah.
He can't ever get set and get steady but when he's moving and making cuts, it's not deliberate. There's no action to it. It's not really helping the team at all.
Yeah, I think he's just overthinking.
I think that's
one thing we made fun of actually after the first game. If you remember, one of the threes he took was looked like a junior high kid, just hoisting that thing up there, hit the backboard, and he missed a layup against the Kings that was just really easy off of where I think he had like an offensive rebound or something and kind of went back up and just didn't even get close to making a layup. And so it's kind of frustrating, I think, for fans to watch. And I started listening to the radio, local sports radio around, and you start hearing this a lot about, I think fans are starting to get fed up with Billy Donovan. Do you think he's at all on the hot seat? Because
I don't think he's on the hot seat yet, but it's certainly time if this season gets going and say 20 games in, they're 9-11 or 10-10, just kind of an average run-of-the-mill team that hasn't really done anything special and continues to play up and down with competition. Yeah. A lot of that's just getting guys motivated night in and night out, which, guys in the NBA shouldn't need that, but some games you're just going to. And so, again, it goes back to, I don't know that Billy's very assertive. And right now, he's getting this extended, I guess, leash because he's a Presti guy. He and Presti are close, and he did a good job, 3-4 years back when they made it to the conference finals, were up 3-1 on Golden State, KD's last year. I think a lot of what he's getting credit for, at least in that front office, is from then, and it hasn't been anything recent, but he just got so long of a leash and they saw what he could do coaching that team that they're thinking it's got to adjust to this team eventually. And right now it hasn't. It's I know it's tough because you've got now 3 ball dominant pick and roll type players like to ISO. So ball movement's going to be tough, but when those guys are in pick and roll, even the wings on either side of the court, they're not cutting. There's no action. They're not setting a back screen for a guy in the post to pop out. Then it's just stagnant, and I hate to see it. It's why this team is looked abysmal on the offensive end.
Yeah, well, you brought it up in the first podcast when we kind of talked about the Thunder. You talked about you never see Billy Donovan get a technical. You never see him fired up, and that's just seemingly not the type of person he is. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes your team needs a guy like that that's going to come out and just get after it a little bit. And I think sometimes that's what Russ tries to bring to offset the fact that his coach doesn't really bring that energy. Russ thinks, well, I got to do it. And we know Paul George is kind of more of a quiet guy. Luckily for the Thunder, there's some bright spots on the end of that bench that we're finally getting to see a little bit now that the Thunder are struggling.
Yeah, and we did see Abrinas go out with what they said was a mouth contusion. I'm not really sure what a mouth bruise is.
He limped off the court, and then they said he had a mouth issue.
Yeah.
So I'm not.
Originally I thought it was a concussion, and maybe he was dazed. But again, I've never seen really a mouth bruise. But I don't know. It's a unique medical term that I'm sure we'll figure something out about later.
You know what it is though. He's European. Yeah. He's European, and those guys that's how they roll, man. They're a little bit softer than they are around here.
I do wish we'd have seen him in the second half. He could have helped, maybe put the ball in the bucket. But some guys I was excited to see off the bench, 2 in particular were Nerlens Noel, and I feel like every podcast we're going to talk about Hamidou Diallo. He's been unbelievable. The energy he brought, there was a clear change and shift in what was going on the court when he came in the game. All of a sudden, players were more active, played with more intensity. There was a time when he got a kick out for a 3, pulled up, missed off the front of the rim. Instead of watching the ball or trying to sprint back, on defense, he saw the opportunity, went and got his offensive rebound and flushed it.
He looked it.
He looked good. Yeah, and then he showed some emotion, which you want players to do. If you watch some of these other games going on in the NBA right now, a lot of these games are close early, and a lot of these teams are showing emotion early when. It's the beginning of the season. People think, we need some time to adjust. No, these teams are coming out firing. They want to win games early.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen fist fights in the NBA, which hopefully we'll get to later in the show because that was awesome. We'll get on Melo Watch and all that and talk about the Houston Rockets and their big fight with the Lakers, hopefully later. Yeah. But that's what you're talking about. You're talking about teams that what we had seen in the first game, we said on the last podcast, we said, this doesn't look like that same Thunder team that looks like they're just looking forward to the playoffs, and whenever that happens, they'll be great, whatever. Hopefully they'll just start playing good around the playoffs. when we saw them play against the Warriors, it looked like we were going to get this hungry team that's trying to win every regular season game. Then the next 2 regular season games, they just kind of look like, nah, whatever. Defense isn't real good. The offense isn't any better. We give up 131 to the Kings, who are a decent offensive team we've seen. They have some good numbers, but they're going to end up being bad. I mean, they'll be in the lottery. So it's just one of those games I feel like, and I'm afraid of, that it's going to come back and haunt OKC later when they're racing and trying to get playoffs seeding.
Because in the West, you have to beat the lower tier teams. Because these games, when
That's
you're
the only
playing,
wins you got.
like for sure,
Yeah.
or I guess not in OKC's case,
Yeah.
even for sure on that. Because when you get to playing the teams like the Pelicans, the Blazers, the Nuggets, the Jazz, some of these teams that are potentially in that 4 through 8 range in the playoffs, it's still going to be a tough out each and every night. So you've got to be able to manifest your own motivation. Otherwise, it's just going to be a long season.
Yeah, and one of the guys we've already mentioned today that's lacked a lot of motivation, at least in our eyes, is Terrence Ferguson, a guy who randomly deletes his social media just this morning, Monday morning, or either Monday morning or late Sunday night after the game. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that?
He's still young. He's probably 20 years old, maybe.
Yeah, he's a really, really young kid.
So it might be best for him because when you're that age, you're very influential. Mm-hmm. Probably not used to a lot of
20.
He's 20, and probably not used to a lot of negative feedback in dealing with Twitter trolls and these egg accounts who probably aren't actually people or people hiding behind it.
Or their second account.
Exactly.
They don't care about.
Doing something like that. So it's probably best for him to get off of that, clear his head. I still think he's got a ton of upside. I just think it's going to be a longer process than what people originally thought.
Right. I mean, we're looking at guys like Diallo and possibly Burton coming off the bench that just seem like better versions of kind of what he's trying to do.
Yeah, well,
in
Diallo
some ways
definitely.
at least.
Yeah, Diallo definitely. Diallo is probably about the same age, if not a little bit younger. Burton's a little bit older. I believe he was a 4-year guy at Iowa State.
Okay.
So, and when you watch him play, he's built. He's a strong guy. He's not going to get manhandled down in the post. He's up and down in himself watching him on the offensive end. He comes out, has a great little step back and finishes with his left at the rim. And then the next play down, when he gets another touch, he airballs a 3. Comes down, misses a poster dunk, gets the ball in a swing, and nails a 3-pointer. He's not afraid of the moment, which is good. You need guys with confidence.
Yeah. He played some big games in the Big 12 with Iowa State.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
he's been under the lights before, and you wonder, a guy like Terrence Ferguson, one thing we brought up, he didn't play American college basketball. He went a different route.
Yeah, he went and played overseas with a team in Australia, and quite honestly, didn't get a whole lot of burn there.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot.
But even in that setting, you get to see professional basketball players and guys who have probably played in the NBA at some point in their career play a little bit. I think he needs a little bit more time.
Yeah, he does, but maybe time right now isn't what the Thunder have. Maybe they've got to move him to the blue or think things like that. It's kind of scary. You start talking about starting at 0-3. Man, it slips away from you fast. I mean, it's 82 games, but man, like you said, these teams that are on the schedule that look like W's, man, you got to make them into W's. And right now, the Thunder just aren't doing that.
Yeah, and to top all that off, this coming Thursday, I guess when this pod comes out, the same day, they've got a big matchup at home against the Celtics.
Yeah, let's real quick talk about that.
Yeah, which is not going to be an easy game, but if there's any indication with what the Thunder are doing, playing up and down the competition again,
it should be a good one.
It should be a really good game. And even though Russ didn't show a lot of rust, I think you could tell in that first quarter, he had about a 6-minute spurt where he was in the game when they pulled him, and he looked gassed. Because you just can't replicate in-game minutes, to get in basketball shape. So I think he'll be a little bit better. I think Billy will be able to hammer down that rotation because, I mean, Boston, they've got a great starting five, but they may be the deepest team in the league. With guys like Terry Rozier, Oklahoma State alum Marcus Smart coming off of that bench.
He comes
a
off
dog.
late, and he's a good player.
Yeah.
You might not see him in the first quarter, maybe the first quarter and a half.
Yeah.
That's how deep they are.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
He's a really good player.
It's nuts.
So they're going to have to bring that same intensity they brought against Golden State, which I think they will because, again, it's just this team is up and down with competition in that, you can point that to your leader, but Westbrook's intensity never wavers.
Right.
He's high-strung. I'm going to come at you 100% all
Don't
game.
matter if you're the Kings,
Yeah.
we're going to come hard. And that's the point of us showing that highlight. That's his first game back from knee kind of clearing surgery.
Yeah.
And he does that.
Yeah,
So.
in the first quarter, he actually dove into the crowd for a loose ball,
Yeah.
which scared me to death.
He went over the front row.
Yeah, and ended up in the second row in the fans. But I again, I'm eternally optimistic at the beginning of the season. I'm not pressing the panic mode, not hitting the panic button yet, but I do think that any good coach in this situation is going to make adjustments. So I think right now it's kind of on Billy. He knows his pieces. He knows what he's got. I think he's got to tweak some rotation, do some things on the offensive end, maybe get more actions, run a few more sets to get guys looks, and go from there. But, that being said, in that game in Sacramento, they had a ton of open threes.
Yep.
They had a ton of open looks. Patrick Patterson was 1 of 6 we talked about, and the one he hit was
an and one.
And one, a 4-point play. But he had open looks. Terrence Ferguson was confident shooting. We take that for what it is. I think he's missed 13 of his first 15 shots, which is tough. Russ looked confident. Schroeder looked confident. They're just not getting, balls to go in the basket, which I think they progressed back to the median on that. I know last year Patrick Patterson shot like 25% in October, and then ended up shooting 38 for the season, which means the last 5 months of the year he shot 40 and above. So I think guys eventually hit shots. It's just, are you going to be in this big hole by the time guys start?
Exactly. So like he just said, just to kind of wrap this all up, we don't want to hit the panic button on the Thunder yet, but it is time to kind of look at things and go, okay, we need to start making some adjustments, because you just don't have long before that schedule really gets you down and you start playing these elite, really, really good teams like we have in the NBA. So we think they'll do that, but it's going to be a tough game against Boston. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so here's our guy, Trae Young, going at it. This is is this his second NBA game or his third at this point?
I believe this is game 3 for him.
Game 3, but he had a heck of a game.
Yeah, he went off, had 35 points, 11 assists, and didn't hardly play, a lot in the fourth quarter. Most of his damage was done in the first 3 because they were up by so much.
Hawks got a win.
Yeah, which I was...
Better record than the Thunder.
Better record than the Thunder. Who'd have
Feels
thought?
real bad.
Yeah. The big thing is, everybody thought, is he going to be able to play with NBA athleticism and get shots off and make plays? Well, I think this game, by itself and as the body of work in these first 3 games proves he can do that, and only having 1 turnover too. He threw some great passes off the pick and roll, and one of his best big men, John Collins, is still out with an ankle injury. So you should see him put up these numbers, not necessarily not in and not out, but he should give you 15 and 10 a game.
Yeah, and I think that was our predictions for him before the season started.
Yeah.
So excited so far. It's looking pretty good for Trae, and the league is starting to take notice, so that's really special for us OU fans who saw him do so much work for us just in his 1 year there and just be such a special player.
Yeah.
Real quick, we want to just briefly mention, kind of try to gloss over the LA Lakers and the Houston Rockets fight from the other night.
Yeah.
Rajon Rondo apparently spits on Chris Paul, which is gross.
Yeah.
Never spit, guys. Don't spit. Rajon Rondo spits on Chris Paul. Chris Paul kind of like...
He puts a finger in his face.
Pokes him in the...
Yeah.
I don't know what...
Pokes him in the eye,
It's Chris Paul. Nobody
Yeah.
really knows. So he kind of pokes him in the face after doing one of these.
Yeah.
And he gets spit on and he does it. And then, Rajon Rondo throws a big punch.
Catches him with a big lift.
And then Paul kind of retaliates and hits him. And then Brandon Ingram...
Out of nowhere.
All 112 pounds of Brandon Ingram looking like a scarecrow, flying down the court with his little dreads, and he's like swinging too.
Yeah.
So Brandon Ingram gets in the face of an official after that.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram receives a 4-game suspension. He's a Laker. Rajon Rondo, 3 games. He's a Laker. And then Chris Paul does end up getting 2.
Yeah.
Just for swinging.
Yeah.
I think he hit him twice.
Yeah.
So
he caught him with an uppercut. and
One
a right.
game.
Yeah.
One game per punch.
Yeah.
So.
And he already served one of those games. Like I said, they took that loss to the Clippers.
Oh yes, the Clippers already happened.
So he's already
just one more game.
He's got one more game and he's back. It's something else.
Let me just real quick, because we don't want to spend too long on this, but do you think the suspensions were fair?
I think they were fair. I really think you could have given Ingram more games because he's the one that escalated this from the beginning.
Yeah, he
Harden
gets
goes
mad
into
about
his
a foul.
body, lays up. Harden's trying to tell him it was continuation to the ref. Walks in front of Ingram. Ingram out of nowhere just shoves
him. Yep.
And then gets in the face of an official for no reason. Guys just went at him night in and night out apparently, and I don't know if he's got the mental capacity for that yet. Still a young player. So Melo grabs him, actually takes him to the other side of the court, and then Ingram just, I don't know if he gives somebody a juke or spin move, but comes in throwing punches. My only thing is, if you've got that reach As a boxer, you've got to connect on these big blows if you're going to throw them.
He just missed. So
Yeah.
pretty cool, crazy deal. Early on in the season, crazy to see fights like that.
Yeah,
I just
but
wanted to keep everybody updated on suspensions and stuff.
Yeah, between this and the Jimmy Butler stuff going on in
been a lot of
Minnesota,
drama.
it's been a great first week to the NBA.
If you like drama, it's been an awesome NBA.
Yeah.
All right, yeah, so let's shift gears and talk a little bit about OU TCU. Happened this Saturday. OU taking the victory 52-27. OU outscoring TCU 24-3 in the second half. I guess those defensive adjustments are doing something.
Yeah, definitely. And those big plays in the first half for TCU came off a short field, some questionable calls that led to a kick to Turpin, who quit and then
so
ran
let's
it back.
just talk about it because it's a big subject for OU fans. CeeDee Lamb and
Hollywood
Brown are in the end zone celebrating, doing their normal little Dragon Ball Z thing. It's very short, and they're doing it as they're getting back to their sideline. So they're moving the whole way. Apparently, the refs decided this was it's like the stupidest rule. It's like a choreographed celebration. And so since it's like premeditated, it's a penalty.
Yeah.
But that's like saying any guy that goes like this, he was going to do that before the game. Yeah.
Hollywood.
Yeah, that's. Anyways, so that leads to a 15-yard. We have to go 15 yards backwards to kick off. We have to kick off to Turpin, who's one of the best return guys, plays for TCU.
Mm-hmm. Probably in the entire NCAA college football.
Might be. Brings one back to the house. 7-7 right off the bat after it looked like OU was just going to run away with it. And that kind of jump-started them a little bit. And like you said, OU then goes up 28-7, I believe.
Yeah.
TCU scores like two straight. The TCU scored 17 in the second quarter. All of those on short field. I believe two of those they started in OU territory. One was like a bad squib kick that bounced off a player.
Yeah.
One was a big punt return that was also set up because of a penalty. OU converted a big-time 3rd and 16.
And then it got
there was a
called
stupid
back.
Guy
not on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, they called one of our guys for not being on the line of scrimmage when he didn't get any warnings. And so what I'm trying to get at with this is the officiating kind of felt a little bit forced.
Yeah.
A lot of the people I listened to today talked about normally when you see a lot of those penalties called, there's warnings for them, and they usually tell you before the game because they've seen tape on you. They say, hey, you line up a little too far back. Can you scoot up just like a half a yard? Yeah. Or, hey, you and CeeDee, you and Brown, you guys can't do that celebration today. Coach came out, said they did not get any warning. They just threw that flag. And so a lot of people, there's these conspiracy theories flying around that TCU tried to get those calls, and they sent those into the league office before their game ever started.
Yeah.
And so the league was looking for those to happen, and they did. So what we're saying is massive penalties kind of bailed, put OU in bad spots, and kind of let TCU score a few times. OU's defense only allowing 3 points in the second half, which was awesome to see.
Yeah.
And OU scored 24 themselves. So really firing on all cylinders on both sides of the ball. There's a lot to like.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw. Even in that small run, I think, I said at one point, if OU can just get TCU starting field position on their own half of the field and, you can make a stop. Make them drive down the field, or you can get a stop. But again, it was a weird game. The play clock didn't work for whatever reason.
Right.
TCU had some weird calls.
Yeah.
And normally, OU special teams has been great all year, and they had some miscues, on the kickoff, and then on a few punts, guys over pursuing, not staying in their lanes in the first half. But they came out in the second half, made adjustments, and looked great. Looked a lot different on the field.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the thing about the play clock because I thought that was weird. I call a lot of high school football games on Friday nights usually, and this last week we had a Thursday night game in Marietta. Marietta does not have any play clocks. They're two-way football. For whatever reason, everybody else we go to has two play clocks on either end of the field. And it makes a big difference in the game.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to run timeout at the end of a half or try to, you just don't know how much time's left. They have a ref back there that's supposed to do like an arm thing when there's 5 seconds left.
Yeah,
but
he puts like 2 arms up for 10 and 1 arm up for 5 or something like that.
It's just dumb. It shouldn't happen. It's just kind of one of those weird things that we talked about as a little gimmicky that all of a sudden against OU, TCU decides to put their better quarterback in the game. Mm-hmm. You can't tell me watching that guy in practice you weren't like, I don't know, Sean Robinson or this guy. He comes in. His name's Michael Collins. He starts the game blazing hot.
Yeah.
He hurts his hand. OU also just kind of adjusted to him in the second half, but he did kind of cut his hand. And after that, it wasn't the same. I mean, he threw a pick to Motley, I believe, which was a huge play.
Basically sealed the game because at that point it was kind of within reach. And then after that pick, OU ran it in the end zone. And
it
went
was
up.
in the red
OU
was already in the red zone, so it was a wrap. But like I was saying, it's crazy that they just finally decided all of a sudden that Collins was the better quarterback over Robinson. Been playing him all season, had a terrible offense all season. Put him in, they look like they're hot. Come in and score 3 straight against OU. They have 2 touchdowns and a kick,
field goal,
and then they go into halftime, and you're like, oh, this is a ball game. It's close. And then, like you said, OU just shutting it down in the second half. We'd love to see that. Buki dropped a pick 6 early in the game. That would have been crazy. And all OU fans that have been battling for Buki all season would be just so elated. Because we've been saying,
I'm one of them. Yeah.
It's coming. And so we were actually at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and I jumped up out of my seat, and then he dropped it, and I was just so sad.
What I did like to see is he got to the sidelines and they put the camera on him and he was doing his push-ups for dropping a pick, which was funny.
I didn't see that.
I think he looks a lot more comfortable in that defense now. They're doing a few different things scheme-wise if we want to get into it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I saw a lot of, different than weeks past is they're running more 4-2-5.
Yeah.
Those 4 base defensive linemen, which I think is going to help against the run, and then you've got your five guys in the secondary and
to help against the pass.
Yeah, and a couple of those guys can come up and make plays. Houghton may be better, coming up and trying to tackle somebody than in coverage. And Buki, I think, is most comfortable in that nickel cornerback position where they may blitz him some. He can drop bass. He's a really physical guy who's probably best lined up maybe one-on-one on a receiver.
Yeah, I agree. You make a good point. A 4-2-5. I'll just kind of transition us in. We're looking at playing Kansas State next week, who is a prolific running team.
Yeah.
OU holding TCU to just 112 yards rushing last week, which is great. Under 300 for the game, which is you'll take all day. I was saying this. I'm just going to throw this take out there, and then we can move on. But if OU can hold teams to under 27 points all season long, they're going to win a national championship.
They're going to win every game, yeah.
So what we've got coming up next, though, I want to talk about is K-State. K-State runs the ball so well. It's homecoming for OU. Yeah. I'm going to be there in person, which is I can't wait for it. It's going to be so fun. I got to go to the UCLA game earlier this year. It was a blast. But this is a big game against K-State. This is a great opportunity for this defense to show really what they can do. And something maybe fans should keep their eye on. We ran a 4-2-5 against TCU, who likes to throw it a little bit more. They may take that DB off the field and go 4-3 with 3 linebackers. We're just going to see what they do. I kind of like the idea of having a lot of speed on the field. Mm-hmm. The thing with K-State is it's a physical running game. Yeah. Their running backs are powerful. They're big and strong, so they really want to run you over. And when you have more DBs on the field, you're opening yourself up to getting run over. So
I agree. I'm interested to see what type of adjustments, Ruffin McNeil and Diaco and this defense are going to make for playing different styles of teams, throughout. I agree with you. I think Kansas State, you should probably have a third linebacker in there.
At least have a wrinkle where you bring in a third guy.
Do a couple different things. I noticed that, they bring in first time we talked about it, that, we saw OU go dime for the first time in I don't know how long.
Yeah, they brought in another defensive back. I mean, they had 6 DBs on the field.
In obvious passing situations.
So it was really cool.
Yeah. Just seeing some more things schematically that aren't so vanilla, but at the same time, aren't so exotic and making players overthink, we've got options. I can do this, or this, depending on what happens. Just go out and make a play, which I think OU's defense did a great job of, especially in the second half.
Yeah, you're right. We use 0 defensive timeouts, which feels so good. If you're a real OU fan, you know the pain. If we use 0 defensive timeouts, it feels so good to say that. Yeah. And there was none of that. Where do we line up? The stuff that we've made fun of a lot. And we don't want to gloss over this either. OU's had some big-time playmakers, and Kyler Murray being one of them. He earns another Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week for his performance, big-time performance against TCU. But he does it so efficiently that it doesn't really set in sometimes.
No, and I think this is his 4th week winning this, which, to put that in perspective, I think Baker won it 4 times as well. So he's tied Baker.
Already,
yeah, and he's played, 6 games now? So he's looked great. You've got to think right now it's a 2-man race for the Heisman between him and
Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, glad you said that last name instead of me.
I think I said that right.
I think
Bama fans, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we probably don't have many listening, but
well, hopefully not. I'm just kidding. I don't care. And then also we have Kennedy Brooks, who's a guy we talked about. He's the Big 12 newcomer of the week. OU running back. We talked about him on the podcast. I'm so excited we got that take right.
Yes.
We said we think Kennedy Brooks is going to get more carries, and he's going to be the, kind of a dominant playmaker, make big, long runs. Saw that all day long. I think he had 168 yards rushing.
Yeah.
It says down there, and he had only one rushing touchdown, but he had several that he ran right up to the goal line, and kind of somebody else finished it off. But love what we see from him, and we think he's going to probably be the main ball carrier from this point going forward.
Yeah, I really liked what I saw. Not to say I didn't like what I saw from Trey Sermon. 17 carries for 110 yards is great, and I hope he's healthy. He took a helmet to his knee there at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth, somewhere in there. Real late. But from everything that we've heard, he walked off just fine after the game and was joking around with teammates. And I think they'll probably do an MRI to make sure that there's nothing internal that's wrong. But between those two, I think you've got a really good two-headed monster in the backfield now. And I think we've talked on this before. You may have brought it up that I think Trey Sermon is best coming into the game as a secondary back in terms of getting a feel for how the game is, getting to watch, see how guys are defending things, and come in as that change of pace bruiser that's just going to run north and south, run through you, and make big plays.
Yeah, OU combining basically a three-headed monster with Kyler Murray for 323 yards on the ground, really dominating TCU's defensively, and TCU's supposed to be one of the better defensive teams in the conference.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see what this team does against K-State. Can't wait to see what the Thunder do going forward against Boston. Hopefully we have some more positive news to report on.
I hope so.
I hate being sad about the Thunder because that's kind of like they're the first pro team in Oklahoma. I love talking good about them, but man, not got it going on so far. So be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, thanks for watching us. We're also on Apple Podcasts now, so subscribe there. I know a lot of you guys were sending us messages, hey, when is it going to be on Apple? Because I can just plug it in and
instead of having to keep the video up.
Right, yeah, and paying attention, you can just kind of put us on in the background, listen to us. So check us out on Apple iTunes, or on Apple Podcasts, rather. We're at Oklahoma Sports Podcast. If you search us, you'll find us, and that's the same on social medias.
Yep.
So thanks again for watching us. We love making these, and you guys make them possible. So spread it, share it, and subscribe. Thank you.
We appreciate you.